1 minute. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, and take the opportunity to welcome you to our lovely space here on Longboat Key, and thank our host for having us here. Please stand now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Kathy. Has received our cards. We will call you at the appropriate time to speak. I know that you've been enjoying the award winners of this year's North County Spring Art Show, which has been showing up on the screen. The winning images shared were created by high school students and one middle school student. The North County Spring Art Show was on display at the Art Center Sarasota from May 9 through 21st and featured art from hundreds of our talented art students from kindergarten to 12th grade. It's a wonderful showcase of our high-quality art programs. And remember that each spring, because in May, we have those on display in Venice for South County, and we have those on display in the North County as well. And we were just looking at them. The colors and the uniqueness of them are just very, very special. We're so grateful to have such great art students in our district. I want to officially thank the Longboat Key administrators that are here with us today and their board for allowing us to meet here. As many of you should know, we're renovating our boardroom, and so we really needed a place to meet today. And I'd like to introduce Mayor Ken Shiner. Ken, would you like to come up and say a few words? Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here. So it is our great pleasure to welcome the Sarasota School Board here to Longboat Key. We're delighted that you decided to have your meeting here. We hope it's the first of, obviously not to have you under construction all the time, but we'd love to have you out here more often. It's a great honor. Longboat Key has been a supporter of the school district and the school board and the schools in both Sarasota and Manatee County for many years, and we understand that a quality education is one of the great parts of having a great community. So we appreciate all that you do. And although we don't have any conventional schools here on Longboat, we do have a lot of students. And with an average age of 71, our interest in learning is intense. Without having to worry about grades or padding resumes anymore, we finally have the opportunity to go to classes and to learn new things and to become artists and to read in our free time without any pressure. So that's great. And so in a real way, we feel like we're a part of your student body as well. So again, welcome and thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to introduce the town manager, Tom Hart. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the school board. I have a PSA, a public service announcement I'm going to make. I just have a few slides if you'll just be patient with me. I want to share a little bit of the excitement of the things that are going on here on Longboat Key. And I'll be relatively quick about it. As you heard the mayor mention, we have a lot of students on the island. We have about 7,515. That's our year-round population. We do grow with our seasonal residents to about 24,000. The island's about 4.5 square miles. We're a little over 10 miles long. We have a significant tax base in Sarasota and Manatee counties combined, over $7 billion. And we are that unique town, one of 4 in the state that is split by 2 counties. And we have about 75 students on the island in public schools. That's split between the counties, so 30-some in each county. My quick public service announcement is really going to be on the 5 projects that you see on the right. So I'll jump right in. As you drove on the island from the south end, if you came in through Sarasota, you may have noticed, but for the first part of the island, all the way almost to the golf course on the east side, we are now completely underground. And so we have a town-wide undergrounding project, almost $49 million paid for by the residents. That work is to be substantially complete by December, but we are complete on the south end. And you can see, this is a residential neighborhood on the south end. You can see on the left, the power lines that were existing in the Country Club Shores neighborhood, and then the new power pole that was next to that as the undergrounding was occurring. And on the right, you see all of those other poles and lines are gone. So island-wide, all aerial utilities will be 100% underground. Here you see on Gulf of Mexico Drive, so as you were driving in, on the left you see the lines that are the existing lines. On the right you now see as the lines have been removed. And so we're really excited about that project. We also are working with Verizon. Over the next week and a half, they're installing 9 4G enhanced, ultimately 5G capable smart poles, 7 of them along the Gulf of Mexico Drive corridor, 2 of them in neighborhoods. And that's just part of enhancing our cell coverage on the island. And we partnered with them in conjunction with our undergrounding efforts. We're also working on the town center. That's a real important project. You're kind of in the town center area here with Publix and the post office and the small private nonprofit library, town hall, and our other offices here. We have assembled about 5 acres of land. We had just received bids to do some work on that property, which will create an even better outdoor green that'll have a performance space, a stage, and ultimately a community center. The stage is private donor funded. We have one primary donor which committed $500,000 for that, a local resident, and we have some other donors that are participating. Without all those improvements, we still this year didn't want to wait for all those to be in place, so we scheduled 9 different events this season. And so just a few of the pictures. We had a tree lighting ceremony to kick it off in November. We had the Hermitage out to do an Artists and Thinkers series. We had 3 concerts. Michael Saunders, who has direct ties here to Longboat Key and her family, has sponsored 3 concert events at the Green. We had 3 different art festivals and or markets. And so we're really excited that we had, in some events, almost 1,000 people out, over 800, and thousands over about a 3 or 4 month period. And so as we improve the property, we know that that's going to continue to grow as a gathering place. And here you can see the finished 3D model of what it would look like with the stage and the walkways and the lighting and other things that will occur. And then we have a pad set aside for a future community center. We did, if you drove by, you saw our new fire station. We went out to the public a couple years ago and asked if they would support us borrowing to rebuild a new station on the south end. They approved that. We also spent a little over $1 million to renovate our north end station, and all that work is now complete. You also passed the construction site of the St. Regis. So that's a hotel, a St. Regis hotel with 166 rooms and then 69 residences. The developer has said that that's about an $800 million project. And so I know it's in Sarasota County, so you guys recognize the value of that type of project. We're not sure how much is going to come on the tax rolls. I've heard anywhere from between 400 and the 800 number, but it's a large project that'll really, I think, set the bar here in Southwest Florida for 5-star resorts on the Gulf of Mexico. And they're moving quickly. They broke ground. It didn't seem that long ago, and they're already working on the 3rd floor. And so it'll be exciting. They've already set the date for the ribbon cutting, June 6th, 2024, for the hotel. And there you can see the finished graphic of what the property will look like. They're 100% sold out for all the condos. And then we just did complete a major nourishment project, 1 million cubic yards of sand, primarily paid for by our residents. We have a separate beach millage rate. And we added groins on the north end to protect, because that's the most erosional part of the island. And then we backfilled that with sand. So now you can see what that looked like once we enhanced the beach there at the North Shore, Greer Island, and the island. The 1 million cubic yards of sand, though, was distributed, along the length of the island. So real quickly, highlight of some of the things going on. And again, thank you for being here, and wish you the best for your meeting.
Well, I want to thank you for always being there for us during the referendum in a very big way. And you may have not as many students as other parts of our county have, but you certainly have made an impact and a difference. In the 6 times that we have done the referendum, you've always been there with us. And I just want to say thank you for your support. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for allowing us to be here. And you do a great job, and we love partnering with Longboat Key.
Thank you, and best wishes in your meeting tonight.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown.
I'd like to add to that too. We had a discussion about this new city center you're going to put in, and I hope you look to us and some of our schools for entertainment for there, because they practice so hard and they get these things together, and they really would like to share those skills and with you, and I think it'd be a win-win situation. And we welcome the opportunity.
Yes, thank you very much. Next up, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Asplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wanted to just give you an update on our summer school and what we're doing in summer school. First of all, we have 18 programs at 15 different school sites and other community sites as well. 10 Title I schools are hosting the Summer Learning Academies. 3 schools are hosting the extended school year for selected ESE students, and 3 schools are hosting the Summer Reading Camp for 3rd graders who need help in reading and to be promoted to 4th grade. Emma E. Booker is also participating in the Dive into Reading program, and Laurel Hines has organized the Kids Read program for 1st graders. So all sites are participating in the Patterson Foundation Suncoast Summer Reading Challenge. We want to thank the Patterson Foundation for that. Students read books each week, earn wristbands, and participate in various activities, and families are encouraged to participate in this Book is Cool program, where students can receive 20 books. We also have our summer reading camp, 3 sites, Cranberry, Laurel Nokomis, and Fruitvale Elementary. It's for 3rd grade, as I said before, reading only. We have approximately 250 students in there, and they are students who scored level 1 on the FSA and trying to catch up. We have volunteers that we recruited and trained to help us support this, and then also transportation and breakfast and lunch were provided as well. We have our Summer Learning Academies, 10 sites at our Title I schools, really for reading, math, STEAM initiatives, and funds have been allocated from the Community Foundation. So I want to thank the Community Foundation for that. We have one school, Alta Vista, that has our parent university, where parents are taking courses, and there we have morning transportation and breakfast and lunch. And then also we have Dive into Reading. That's at one site, Emma E. Booker. It's for 2nd graders. We have many volunteers that we trained and participate, and it's in collaboration with Geckos. So for 4 weeks on Tuesdays, Geckos helps us out with this. Each week, students take a bus to the Geckos at Cattleman and Fruitville. They first listen to a book read aloud by a district staff member. Then they partner with a volunteer who talks with them about the book that they just heard and read. Geckos provides breakfast to the students at that point. After eating and conversation with their mentor, the volunteer grabs a bag of books and reads to the students. They talk about what they're learning and they make connections to what the students already know. And each week, the child leaves with one book. So that's what's going on with our summer school this year. We have quite a few across the district. Also, in the summer, as you know, we hire a lot of people, and hiring is going very well. We started hiring earlier this year so that we could pick up those very best teachers and other employees. So that's going great. We have job fairs in the near future that will continue. Our goal, obviously, especially in the instructional area, is for no vacancies whatsoever once the school year starts, and hopefully we'll get to that point. Other than that, we're cleaning, painting, working on roofs, working on remodeling, refreshing computers across the whole district. So that's really an update of what's going on this summer. So just wanted to give that to you, and I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. There's a lot of important things going on, and I'm so glad to see these kids reading because we do not want to have summer slide for our youngsters, and many of them don't read as much. So we encourage all parents to make sure that you read to your child every day and encourage that child to read as frequently and often as every day because it's so vitally important to coming back to school and being prepared. So next up, we have our hearing of citizens, one of our two hearing of citizens, and this one is about items on the agenda. If you filled out a card, that card will now be with our vice chair, Mr. Edwards. And speakers addressing the school board shall not make remarks which are irrelevant to the business of the school board or which are abusive, threatening, defamatory, obscene, profane, or otherwise of a disorderly nature. As such, it's not a forum for attacking individual employees or school board members, and any such complaints should be submitted in writing to the superintendent or emailed to the school board member. It is unlawful to disrupt or interfere with the school board meeting, and any such action may result in a misdemeanor or offense at the second degree. At the discretion of the presiding officer pursuant to Florida Statute 1001-.372(3), which for purposes of public comment tonight is me, any individual who interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of this meeting will be removed. This is a business meeting of the school board, and the public expects that we conduct it in an orderly, efficient, effective, and dignified manner. We humbly ask that you act as you were taught as a child, be respectful of others, and treat them as you would want to be treated. Finally, as public servants elected by the people of this county, we will listen with open minds and open hearts to your comments. We will not make comments based on the comments that you make. We respect your First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, and as a citizen of this great country, you must understand that your rights are not absolute. So you're free to speak your mind, but you cannot defame an individual or yell fire in a crowded theater. With rights come responsibility. And so we begin. Mr. Edwards?
Barbara Vaughn, Alexis Spiegelman on deck.
Mr. Edwards, I'm going to pray about agenda items 9 and 10 tonight, the high school and middle school fees. Father God, you have blessed this Sarasota County with such largesse. We have done a marvelous job of supporting the students in our county, but we need to do better, Lord. We need to manage our school budget better. We need new hands managing our budget. We don't need to be adding fees for students, high school or middle school, fees that are not already on a list of fees. Lord, you heard the chair refer to 6 referendum. Every 2 years in the time I've lived in Sarasota County, the school board comes back to the citizens for more money after spending well over $1 million, $2 million. Who knows anymore? Because the budget is not available for us to see. I was promised a copy of the budget. And Lord, you know, the man who promised it has not been seen at these meetings again. Lord, I beg you to work in the school board, make them more efficient and more responsible with our tax dollars so that we don't have to go back to the students for additional fees for anything in their education. Thank you, Lord. Bless this meeting. Bless those who have come to the meeting. Bless all those who will speak. And bless all of our children, particularly as we go into summer. Thank you, Lord.
Mrs. Spiegelman, Michelle Posey, on deck means come up and be ready to step up. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Alexis Spiegelman, Moms for Liberty, Sarasota. Agenda item number 33. Since we moved to Sarasota, the district has dropped from 3rd in the state to 6th and is currently on the verge of becoming a B-rated district for the first time ever, I believe. Only 63% of 3rd graders are reading at grade level. That's not proficient, which is closer to only 19%, but just barely getting by. That number dropped 7 points since 2019, yet today we are going to give our superintendent a raise. The plan for improving academic success in our district, well, you won't find much of that on this agenda, or any agenda for the last year and a half, really. Agenda item number 12, the Florida Center for Early Childhood. Here we are with yet another mental health contract. This one is a renewal contract with a third-party vendor. A therapist from this vendor was reportedly meeting with a student at a school for several weeks without any knowledge of the parent. When the parent found out that their child was meeting with the new therapist at the school, it took this parent roughly 3 weeks to track down something as basic as the therapist's name. Sarasota County Schools could not provide this information, yet this vendor was allowed on school property to meet privately with a student behind closed doors without the parent's knowledge for several weeks. Once the parent tracked down the therapist's name, she discovered the therapist meeting with this elementary student for several weeks without any preliminary or ongoing communication with the parent was merely an intern licensed only in January of this year. Agenda item 13, 15, and 16, another school-based third-party mental health contract, this one with First Rep. This is another renewal with a vendor that just this year had a data breach after we were assured that that could never happen. On October 5th, 2021, the board presented Unite Us as a way to help families in need, such as to provide food and clothing for families. However, if you look at the actual contract, it says, Unite Us is a series of contracts tied together to provide by a service letter agreement. The Unite Us contract states, Unite Us has developed a proprietary care coordination and care management platform, the Unite Us platform. Are all of these third-party vendors part of this platform that you are now
Mrs.
using to
Spiegelman.
refer
Michelle
for
Posey.
medical referrals? Thank you.
Michelle Posey, Marcus Spiegelman on deck.
When the clock runs down, please stop.
Hi, Michelle Posey, District 3. I'm also speaking on Agenda Item 12, the Florida Center. It's $1.2 million for mental and behavioral health services. It doesn't appear that, I guess because it's a renewal, that we're getting any competitors provided for this. Does anybody find it in bad taste that this nonprofit is also business partners with the Community Foundation, which our Council Dandaleo is the chairman of? It kind of reminds me of Miss Goodwin being the chair of both the school board and the group that directs the district's finances, the Financial Advisory Committee. Why were we not provided with maybe some other options? And this is just a guaranteed renewal. Who arranged this contract was another question of mine. Payments in the contract, it looked like, are broken down to $50,000 a year for 25 mental health providers. Why can't these funds be spent to bring counselors in-house as district employees? I feel like outsourcing these duties gives an arm-length separation that can allow for maybe a breakdown of accountability, liability, and again, when funding is created for a need, we should also worry about the potential for a need to also be created to continue the funding. This contract states that if they have no services rendered, these healthcare providers, from August to May, they're still guaranteed $2,500 a month. I go back to a discussion at an earlier workshop where you talked about unvaccinated teachers maybe not getting paid time off. Yet this third-party vendor, it states in their contract, they'll get $2,500 a month for these mental health providers, even if no services are rendered. I'm sure our teachers would love that same guarantee. I think we all would agree that we all care about the health and well-being of our students. But I think we should expand our district level employees for more counselors and stop outsourcing the heavy lift that really should be done here within the district. Thank you.
Angela Nguyen on deck.
Hello, Marcus Spiegelman. I live within the district. Continuing my conversation from the last meeting, I sent emails to all of you this afternoon, some of you have not had the opportunity to read those messages. That being said, during the last workshop meeting, about half of the time was spent talking about things over here when I was talking about things over here. I never raised a concern regarding the school district itself, IT security, nor the staff's ability to vet and determine what data is appropriate to be sent to third-party vendors. That being said, I also did not intend to point out First Step and throw them under the bus related to a data breach they had. I merely attempted to use them as a proxy as a higher level, higher functioning organization compared to many of the agreements that we're signing. These organizations receive data not just from IT transfers, but through the normal course of business and discussion with students. So it's not necessarily an IT problem. First Step did a good job of remediating with the help of a third-party vendor, their data breach, but then had a third-party vendor audit their physical, administrative, and technical ability to maintain data, language that's within all of the agreements that you have with these organizations. That being said, unfortunately, this audit came up with some deficiencies as well as some recommendations. As of that workshop, they had yet to approve or work on the deficiencies. They had to go to the board to get approval to address those issues, which typically means funding. I don't like to come with problems without offering solutions. I've given one to you in the letter that I sent to you. It merely asks that other organizations that are getting access to this data conduct a similar type of audit of their own ability to maintain. And if they're unable to do so and or act on those recommendations, the school board has the option, but not the requirement, to cancel the contract for convenience. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angela Nguyen. I'm here to speak on a combination of agenda items 12, 13, and 16, all having to do with mental health. I believe that it is vital to our community to have mental health services available for our students. With the recent passage of the multiple hate and censorship bills, our children will likely be facing more challenges than ever regarding their mental health. The aptly nicknamed Don't Say Gay bill specifically forbids a student from discussing their parents if they are same-sex parents. They're forbidden from speaking about their own identity if they identify as anything other than heterosexual. They're essentially being told that they are forbidden to exist. The Pledge of Allegiance promises liberty and justice for all, not just for specific people. As we keep witnessing governmental overreach firsthand, we must fight to ensure that our most precious population have a safe space where they can discuss their feelings, challenges, fears, and hopes. I wish we didn't need mental health services in our schools, but sadly, as long as hate laws like this keep getting passed, we will soon have to discuss funding more services. You can't put a price on our students' mental and physical and emotional health.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Dr. Asplin, we have had some additions to that, correct?
Yes, one addendum was added to item number 8, the instructional classified personnel report. And the following items have been pulled over to new business for conversation and vote. That would be item number 12, approval of contract for mental and behavioral health services between the Florida Center for Early Childhood, Inc. Item number 13, approval of the contract for mental and behavioral health services between First Step of Sarasota and our school district. Item number 15, approval of agreement between First Step of Sarasota, Inc., First Step DeFi, and the school district. Item number 16, approval of contract between First Step of Sarasota, Inc. and the school district. Item number 17, approval of the data sharing agreement between Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Suncoast and the school district. And then number Item number 18, approval of data sharing agreement between Grant Writing, Evaluation, and Program Improvement Consultants, LLC, and the school district.
Hearing that, we will move those items down and discuss those shortly after we approve the consent agenda. As our attorney has mentioned to us, we can do it that way as opposed to putting it at the end of new business. Either way, we will vote on those.
Madam
So-
Chair, I'd like to move the consent agenda as amended.
Second? Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please signify by saying no. The motion carries unanimously, and I might mention at this point in time that Karen Rose is not with us tonight. She's not feeling well, and she's at home. We wish that she would feel better soon. So let's now go into those items that Mrs. Ziegler moved to discuss. And the first one would be, and I'm going to make a motion on that, or have someone make a motion and a second, and then we will discuss it. So item number 12 would be the first.
I move the approval of the contract for mental health and mental and behavioral health services between the Florida Center in Early Childhood and the School Board of Sarasota County.
Second.
Discussion. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Dr. Aspen and board members. I regret having to pull this. Honestly, I know that there's been a lot of ongoing conversations with the superintendent myself, and a lot of moving parts. They are pulled as a whole, and I want to be very clear that these are not an indictment at all with our partners. Anyone who is named here, this is not an indictment or to belittle the services that they provide to our community and to our families. It is merely an element that I believe is responsible of us as public officials, public servants that are here to provide oversight when it comes to this educational institution. There is no doubt, and I want to be very clear for anyone listening, that I understand and support the necessity when it comes to providing services for all of our families and such. That does sometimes include mental health services. However, I believe it is incumbent upon us, again, as public servants who've been elected by the community to ensure proper checks and balances are in place to assure that they are protected. Again, this is not an indictment on any of those particular organizations, as many of them have longstanding, valuable relationships with this community and this board. I want to take us back a little bit more from a historical standpoint, and again, I'm not going to do this for each item for sake of time. It's kind of as a whole to highlight
Thank
that.
you.
So, for anyone. Back this time last year in May of 2021, a similar concern was brought forward when these contracts were presented, and I'd asked about as far as processes as it related to quality control and particularly around parental consent and making sure that not only does staff have awareness, but also our third-party vendors. Again, there's limited managerial control, but that is within the contract confines that we make sure that we have those processes. At that time, it wasn't able to be confirmed. There was additional information that was going to be provided by a member of staff. It was pulled and provided to the board at 3:03 at the next board meeting that convened at 3 p.m. I raise that only merely as, again, I understand our staff has a lot on their plate. The reason I raise this is there are reasons not to create havoc, but it is, again, I believe our responsibility to do proper due diligence. And when there is an element of disdain or not taken, when these issues are taken or appear to be taken lightly, it is concerning and makes our job very difficult to do. So as we move forward throughout the past year, I raised situations that are hypothetical and why I was asking some of these questions, that both with the Unitas contract as well as with the First Step, again, not highlighting First Step, but that was the contract that was at that time. Subsequently, throughout that year, the following year, there were 2 incidences that were exactly within the hypotheticals that I presented that actually occurred. Again, large operation entity, I understand issues happen. You cannot guarantee that risks are completely removed, but it highlights and underscores the element of why these questions are so important. Moving to where we are now, I know the superintendent, I know members of staff have worked diligently to try to improve upon that. Going to the last board meeting on June 7th, I raised that in advance of that meeting to assure the members of the community that we had, in fact, addressed various issues, and I wanted to raise those issues so that so that there was an element addressing them, that they weren't being left by the wayside, but then to allow for comfort and assurances so we could move forward. Unfortunately, when that conversation came up, I think there was some misconfusion. I want to thank my fellow board members for pulling it, but then we find ourselves where we are today. I don't believe that a lot of these questions has fully been determined, the solutions have been identified or concurred. We have, in addition to that, subsequently, we have an audit committee that is to respond and report to the board. And recently, and this was only made aware to me today, that the most recent audit committee meeting was to pull and identify contract renewals. 2 were the sample size, of which 1 is a vendor, an organization that is up for renewal today. Again, not indicting that particular vendor or organization, but there were items that were highlighted as to areas of potential deficiencies that were rated moderate. We haven't had the opportunity to discuss this as a board. It is up at our upcoming workshop, which is where I find myself very plagued. I believe it is our responsibility to do proper due diligence. I don't believe anyone is doing anything but an intentional negligence. However, when we have issues raised and we don't have solid answers to those and haven't identified action to mitigate against that, I believe we are posing ourselves to additional exposure. And that is where I find ourselves today for each item. So to be fair to my fellow colleagues, again, I know all of us support the services and do not want to minimize access to that. We don't want to create barriers, but we certainly do not want to create barriers and certainly want to ensure that we're supporting our families and following the law. Finally, I understand that next month there will be discussions about with legal as it pertains to the Parental Bill of Rights, not to be confused with the Parental Rights in Education. That bill was signed into law in March of 2021 and was effective July 1st of 2021. Understandably so, there were items at the Department of Education that had to come down, but that is going to be discussed at the next meeting. So that, again, puts us in a very difficult spot as board members that we're being asked to make decisions upon things that have not been resolved. My recommendation is that we make either caveats to each contract. I don't want to diminish those services, but I want to have assurances, not only for us as board members, but certainly to the community, that we are not going to rid ourselves and get rid of it, but there's a serious nature that we need to provide the oversight that we were elected to do and provide the proper due diligence. So I'd like to entertain amendments, and I'd ask council that to see how this would be available and what posture to provide amendments that with a time certain of July or August 1st, and I want to be realistic to staff as to when they can do this, so that there is a caveat provision that these remedies will be addressed publicly and provided to the board. So my question to council is, how can each item 12 through 18, absent 16, provide some kind of caveat component where we can say I move to approve and I amend it with the aspect that we will present to the board before September 1st remedies and potential remedies to assure that we have evaluated the security protocols and the processes that have been broadly outlined here.
Well, I wouldn't recommend,
Is your mic on?
working on the ship while it's sailing along. So one option is to approve the agreements and then work to amend them as the collective wisdom of the board and administration decide to do. Another option is to continue them, and you can do that each by each. That's entirely up to you. So is that the question you wanted answered?
So I can make an amendment or a motion to ensure that we have a workshop that's covering these issues by X September 1st.
I think that you could probably make a motion to do about anything that you wanted.
My goal is to provide a solution and not just continue down this path, and to be fair, again, to my colleagues, staff, and the community, and that's my goal. So I know, again, Dr. Aspen, I know members of staff have spoken about this, and I wanted to highlight why they were pulled. My goal is not to vote them down so that they are unable to move forward, but I do believe it's our responsibility to have some remedies. So I don't know, Dr. Aspen, do you have any comments or suggestions?
Yes, as you know, I have talked with staff recently, Dr. Cantalupo and Mr. Binswinger, and we've talked about issues regarding these agreements and the organizations who are servicing our students, and the data and the security measures that are in place. And when you talk to them and they look at everything, and they've talked to Mr. Spiegelman, we've had him come in as well. They feel confident. They have confident levels and agree that these services that they provide are appropriate legal safeguards that the board and the community can be comfortable with moving forward. And so my recommendation is that we move forward and approve these tonight. However, the staff, with the support of our legal person over here, Mike McKinley, our attorney, and the community, Mr. Spiegelman helps us with that as well, can be comfortable with moving forward, but also currently look at the Bill of Rights, Parent Bill of Rights, FERPA, HIPAA, and suggestions from the community to determine where there are opportunities to provide the appropriate additional safeguards to strengthen even further. So I do recommend that we approve these tonight so that we can continue to service our students in the appropriate way and our families in the appropriate way. But I do think we need to take a look at this again and include the appropriate folks in the conversation so that we can make the appropriate revisions as we move forward.
I have a problem in that it's getting late. We have school starting the 1st of August. These services are needed. I've talked to Deb Jackalone. I've talked to Joe Binswanger. I've talked to several people. I've talked to our legal counsel. We can cancel these contracts if they're not right, if we don't want to do them. This has, I don't think, very little to do with our audit, internal audit report, Mrs. Ziegler. That will be brought forward. I know you have spoken, I think, with one person on that committee. But I don't think that there was anything but good intentions and good work that was done in the contracts that we had that were referenced with the Florida Center. I do believe that, we have already vetted everything. When we put something on the consent agenda, it's not, well, raise your hand, let's say if we want to keep it on the consent agenda or not. These things have come forward to us several times now. And I just wonder, I hear from the audience, and I hear from people in the audience, and then I hear from you, and I wonder, you're not a mental health counselor. I'm not a mental health counselor. What gives these people the credibility to make these decisions? We cannot, and I had someone in the audience today ask me, well, why don't we bring people into our district and let them work for us? Because we can't afford it. The burden factor is way too high. They have the skills that are necessary. Our silos of what we can spend in mental health counseling goes up and down every year. We cannot afford it. That's why we don't do it. And basically, we need mental health services now more than ever from all of these entities. And I don't want to besmirch their reputation. First Step does a great job for our community. The information, the data that we give to them does not have any pertinent information that they could buy, sell, or use in any way. It has extraneous numbers, it has no addresses, and that sort of thing. Now, if there are people in the community, and I don't know them yet, who have this great skill set, Mr. Spiegelman may be one. I don't really know your expertise, but I've heard this before. Then, let's work on it on the side. But let's go ahead and pass these things and get this rolling. We have been spending all summer, spinning our wheels over this, and I don't know if it's for a really good reason. And that's where I have great concern, is are we playing games here? And who are we playing with? Our children. And that gives me great pause and great concern. Mrs. Brown.
I have a question of Superintendent Asplin. Have we had any complaints from parents that have been harmed from data breaches from any of our providers?
I don't know of any that have called that have been harmed from data breaches. None.
No?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Edwards.
So I'm in agreement that we should move forward. I'm always a fan of continuous improvement, and I think the members of the community have heard me say that many, many, many times. I think it's disingenuous when one says, I want to assure the members of the community. we work diligently to assure the members of the community at all times that their kids are safe, that they have the right services, that we provide levels of instructions. And when I hear that, I need to assure members of the community that's suggesting to me that we haven't done our job, and that's not true. And on top of that, from my particular point, Mrs. Ziegler, you've lost your credibility with me in terms of that it showed back up on the agenda. And we were ready to go, we're ready to vote, and once again, on the 11th hour, I'm getting emails midday of the day of the meeting that it's being pulled, when in fact, we pulled this already at the last board meeting. You had all the time that I did, because I did want to assure the community that I double-checked. I spoke to Joe Biswanger, I spoke to our attorneys, I spoke to Dr. Aspin, I went through the entire, and for it to end up, I was with Dr. Aspin yesterday morning at 11 o'clock, and he said, all's good to go. So the fact that it's once again the 11th hour, it feels to me like it's quite frankly, a little grandstanding, a little game playing. So I think we should move forward, but I did get Mr. Spiegelman's addendum today, which I thought has some validity, and I'd be happy to research that with our council.
So that being said, where do we go from here? Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you. Again, disturbed by the comments because I tried to very clearly and succinctly outline that this is not a game. And again, I believe it is our responsibility. It's very clear to me as I outline this, I'm concerned that we have a process system issue. I am not discounting the high caliber of intellectual human capital that we have within this community, within this district. So I want to be very clear, and I want to assure people that I have had multiple conversations with members of staff and our superintendent. I think what is disheartening was that once again, there were some additional issues that came up last minute, and now we feel as that we are back against the wall. I don't like to be that way. I think there are issues raised that haven't been remedied and have been over a series of time beyond the last two meetings. And doesn't seem like we're there. I think it sounds that even our superintendent, although I do not want to put words in his mouth, recognizes that there are opportunities to improve. I will leave it at that. I wanted to make it very clear as to where I stand, but I think that over the course of the year, there's certainly been ample time.
So let's move along with voting on these items as they appear. Item number 12. Did we have a motion? I can't even remember. We've already had a motion.
I moved.
We've been under discussion. Okay. So is there any more discussion on item number 12? Then please signify that you're in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
So the motion carries 3-1 with Ms. Ziegler in dissent. Item number 13.
I move the approval of contract for mental health and behavioral health services between First Step of Sarasota and the School Board of Sarasota County.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. Oops, sorry.
You said both, right?
Yeah.
You are an aye.
I'm an aye.
So the motion carries 3-1 with Mrs. Ziegler dissenting. Item number 15.
I move the approval of the agreement between First Step of Sarasota and the First Step DeFi and the School Board of Sarasota County.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please signify approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Please signify dissent by saying nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1 with Mrs. Ziegler's dissent. Item number 16.
I move the approval of the contract between First Step and the School Board of Sarasota County.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
The motion carries 3-1, Mrs. Ziegler being the dissent. Item number 17.
I move the approval of the data sharing agreement between Big Brothers and Big Sisters of the Suncoast and the School Board of Sarasota County.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
So the motion carries 3-1 with Ms. Ziegler dissenting. Item number 18.
I move the approval of data sharing agreement between and grant writing, evaluation, and program improvement consultants LLC and the School Board of Sarasota County.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please signify approval by saying aye.
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 All those against, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries unanimously. And that ends what we had pulled from the consent agenda, and now we move on to new business.
I'd like to make a comment on item 11 from the consent agenda.
Yes.
That is, we're going to be increasing the hourly rate to $15 an hour for all employees effective July 1. That really affects some of our lunchroom and some of our aide positions. Our bus drivers are already up over that. This is something I ran on 4 years ago, and I'm glad we're almost there with our negotiations last year, and I'm sure we will be there following up our negotiations this year too. But this is going to get it started on October 1.
And it's a very good thing.
And I think the governor also asked for it, but there wasn't any funding for it. But I understand we are going to use our funding to make that happen.
And now we move on to new business.
I move the approval of item 33, contract for the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
This doesn't give any increases out at this time. The increase was done previously. What this does is extends the contract for an additional 2 years, so that there'll be a cohesive movement forward. It took out the supermajority approval, so just a simple majority can vote to dismiss the superintendent without cause. But then there's a balance on that, and that, there's a severability, a page payment on that. So I think we listened to what was being said at the last meeting and what the superintendent had to say, and we've made those changes.
Well, we will be evaluating the superintendent in the fall when we have all of our numbers from our different assessments in. It doesn't really work to do them the end of June. So I would say that we look forward to doing that. But I do think that Dr. Asplin is doing a tremendous job. He works very, very hard for us every day. I have great confidence in him. I enjoy working with him. I will miss him when I go. I will miss all of you when I go. Of course, you all know that. But basically, I just want to say, keep up the good work. The strategic plan is coming along nicely with our implementation. That is so very important, and look forward to continuing in the great way that this excellent school district is run and maintained. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
Wait, there's some.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that we have some meetings coming up, and this is just contingent upon our conversation last time. When it goes to the goal setting as we move forward, do we determine what date we're doing that? No, that's not reflected in the contract.
You're talking about the goal setting for next year.
Yes, but that we
Yes.
needed to have that concluded before June 30th of 2022.
That is correct.
Unless there's a meeting coming up that I'm not aware of.
So we have our next one-on-ones on Monday, next Monday. And in the one-on-ones that we had this week, I mentioned that if there's anything that you would like to send me as far as goals are concerned, please do that. In the meantime, I'll create those and make sure that you have those next year. Hopefully you agree with them. If not, you can scratch them off and put what you want so that we can get that complete, before the 30th.
Thank you so much. So my question to the general counsel, would it be appropriate to put an addendum in here just to properly identify that for this particular year?
If that's the will of the board, they can do that. I don't think that it's necessary. I think that
Okay.
the incentive paragraph makes some reference to that, and the board and superintendent, I believe, are going to get together between now and September 30th. I remember
Yes.
someone telling me.
So upon mutual agreement, so then we'd
Yeah,
be in
yeah,
proper, okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
That's the concept. Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Brown?
I too want to commend our superintendent for, he came in under extraordinary circumstances. There was a community and a school district that was a little bit in chaos, and then, we added COVID to it. So you've had your hands full, but we were still able to come up with that new strategic plan, and we're working on those goals, and I appreciate getting the updates from you. And I look forward to seeing what our scores will be. And I know it's not all on your shoulders. It's a lot to do with, what our children have been doing, what our teachers have been doing. But even that, there's been a lot of absences last year, staff and students. The mental health issues that we're having to deal with. But I think you've done a terrific job, and I know we worked on the evaluation process. That was our workshop last week, wasn't it, that we did this? Yeah, so we came up with these evaluation goals, and we were told again to send in any changes that we might want to see, to contact him about those. So, and we agreed that this is what the evaluation tool will look like, and we will do it in September. I don't think we need to be changing anything because at our workshop, I thought we discussed it. So I'm ready to vote.
Well, I think it looks pretty good, and I think it's pretty easy to understand, and it does have all the segments in there. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we're kind of ahead of the things for a while, which we haven't been in a while, and I appreciate your patience. I know when you first came in, we had a meeting, and it was particularly, I'll just say contrite. That's probably not the right word, but I looked down, and you sat way at the other end at that time. I looked at your eyes, and I thought, as soon as this meeting's over, he's going to get in his car. He had not moved to Sarasota at the time. He's going to get into his car, and he's going to drive fast to St. Johns County, and he's never going to come back. And so, we went that way, and that didn't happen, thank God. And it's really, I think you can breathe more deeply now and see things more clearly and concisely, and not as, you ran around and did all those movies of the different schools, and I thought those were really great. I still watch some of those and hear people that see them. And so, I think we're on the upside of something. So I'm really looking forward to next year, and I think you probably are as well. So
I am. Thank you very much. I am very excited about the future. We have worked very hard on this strategic plan, a lot of things that we've worked really hard on. And, as we see those come to fruition over the next few years, I know it's going to be very exciting. And it's all about helping our students be successful and giving them opportunities as they graduate from our school system. So again, thank you for the contract. I appreciate that. And thank you for the confidence that you have in me.
well, it's really important to have steady leadership. You shouldn't have a lot of changes. That's why I think it's so important that we're going with K-8 schools now, because a child should into kindergarten and go all the way through 8th grade at the same school. That's a really good idea. And I think the same thing goes with principals, and same thing goes with superintendents. And we have a lot of changes that we are forced into by the Department of Education and the legislature every year, different standards that change, and the way we process education changes. But I think we're on the road to some great things, and this is, to me, the best district in the state, maybe one of the best in the nation, so maybe that's just who I am.
Madam Chair, can you clear up, there's some confusion out there on how this contract, a revised contract, made it. There's some talk that you were in a back room somewhere out of the
Bathroom?
sunshine.
Was I in the bathroom?
Yeah,
no.
but this was last year's contract, the previous contract, and it went to our attorney and the superintendent's attorney and came back to the board, if I'm not.
Well, what happened was that we started out with a contract, and the contract that we had worked on, I think, was typed on a Selectric typewriter in 1968. It was about that old. because I used to sell electric typewriters, so I know what the typeface looks like. But Mr. McKinley had a contract that he had used, which had everything in it, and you might want to address this.
It was in electronic format and it read a little better, was
Yes.
my opinion. So we started with that and hung the pieces on it. And the superintendent's lawyer had a crack at it, and that's how we got where we are. The board has seen this document a week ago, right? 1 week ago?
Yes, but I was just the messenger. It wasn't something that I did. I didn't put anything about a supermajority, no cause clause in there. I laughed when it came back from the superintendent's attorney because I knew how everyone had reacted to the one that we had put in with Todd. But remember, all of this is negotiated. We had a good 2-hour session of our workshop, put it first thing on the agenda, and I think it was the most important thing for us to talk about. And it's like this, like playing poker. You got 3 votes or 4 votes or 2 votes or 1 vote, and that's how it goes, and that's how you end up with the contract. But I think it's a good contract. I think it's good for him, and I think having him represented by an outside attorney is a very important thing to do. I mean, he's the CEO of our organization, so I feel good about it, and I think that is one less thing that we have to worry about with a new board coming in the fall. And, we only have one board at a time, so we don't make things early or we don't reflect on what a new board's going to do, or 2 years' time another board. We do what we have to do, but we know that we want to do as very much as we can now to make it easier for new people coming in, because it takes 2 to 4 years to get on your feet as a school board member. You don't come in and know anything the first day. And anyone tells you they do really doesn't understand how involved the job really is, but it takes a long time. And then you've got institutional knowledge on top of that, which is good, and that will not be on our board after we leave, after Mrs. Brown and I are gone, Mrs. Brown being 16 years, my being 12. So at any rate, we're
And
all
I
for
didn't
that.
hit the ground running.
Well,
I
yes.
was jogging.
So, at any rate, I think we've talked enough. Anybody else have anything to add to this? If not, let's vote. So, hearing no more discussion, all those in favor of item number 33, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Thank God we have no nays. It passed unanimously. Congratulations, sir. And now, next up is item number 34. May I have a motion?
I move the approval of the Sarasota County Schools Annual State Equity Report.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is the one that's required by the state,
Yes?
and Dr. Moore has put it all together for us, and we discussed it at our workshop, and I have no more questions on it.
I have no questions either. Thanks for a great job. Good work. Good work. Hearing no more discussion, any discussion, may we now vote on that? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. And the motion carries 4-0 unanimously. And that ends new business. Next up, a few announcements. Does anybody have anything they want to say before I make my last announcements? Mrs. Ziegler.
I know at the last workshop, first of all, I wanted to applaud our board. I think we got a lot of productive items done. But after that, we had a celebration for our outgoing CFO, who served this board incredibly well, especially amid some of the most challenging times. And I just wanted to, again, thank her and her family and wish her a very successful retirement, well-deserved.
That was nice. Yes, Mrs. Corcoran is a tough act to follow, but we have Bonnie Pinner sitting in the back. Wave, Bonnie, who is fabulous, fabulous, and I'm so happy that you're here. Anything else? Dr. Asplin.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Oh, your light's on. I thought maybe. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just want to thank Mitzi as well. As I said the other day, she was the interim superintendent when I came on board, and she really helped me to get get grounded here in Sarasota. I really appreciate everything she does, especially her CFO abilities. She's fantastic with our dollars, and we will all miss her greatly, and I just wish her the best in retirement. And then I also want to thank all of our staff out here today for all the hard work that you do on a daily basis. You are amazing with all the different things that are coming at you that are on top of the agenda that you already have on your desk for yourself. And you do a fantastic job, and our school district very much appreciates all the work that you do. So thank you very much.
Tom, did you have something to say? Anyone else? Well, I would just reiterate, yes, thanks to the staff. I hope everybody gets some time off between now and middle of July or whenever, because some people really need it, huh? Dr. Clayton shaking her head, yes, yes, yes. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July the 19th at 6 p.m. in our boardroom at the Landings. And we have 2 tentative budget and millage meetings scheduled for July, one on July 21st at 4 p.m. I don't have the other one. And the 26th, July 26th at 4? At 5:15, yeah, okay. So those will be our 2 meetings, and then we will go back to 2 board meetings and a workshop back in August. So if there's nothing else on the agenda, we're adjourned, and now we look to the hearing of citizens about general information. Mr. Edwards.
Alexis Spiegelman and Michelle Posey on deck.
Thank you, Board. My name's Alexis Spiegelman, Moms for Liberty, Sarasota. You know, I was going to speak about something else, but given the lovely conversation we just had here today, and the steady leadership, Jane, that you've offered all of us in our community, I think that's exactly what needs to change. You know, and it is also the problem that we all had with the superintendent's contract. So I think that when you look at when Dr. Asplin came into our district, it was around the time we had the CRT in our schools with Brain Pop. We were teaching critical race theory, and BLM was protesting outside, and we were having BLM student-led protests in our schools. And then Dr. Asplin created the Equity Committee, which goes beyond what the statute calls for, and we don't actually need it. So that's interesting. It's also interesting that that happened after the FSBA helped us find Dr. Asplin the second time. They also brought us our last superintendent, Dr. Todd Bowden, or not doctor, I'm sorry, Todd Bowden.
He was a doctor.
Oh, was he? Okay, my apologies. And he was thrown out for sexual harassment. The same FSBA board is very much involved in every aspect of Sarasota County. They do provide the steady leadership that we're seeing. And they're in this steady leadership of this majority that's shoving things down everyone's throat, regardless of whether it's right or not. We're sailing the ship. We're fixing the ship while it's broken. That's why we need to replace that leadership and all of the ideology and that go in disregard for the public that goes with it. And we will do that on August 23rd. Thank you.
Bryn Gibbs on deck.
Michelle Posey, District 3. I have a question. Mr. Edwards, is your job too difficult for you? Because you seem to say that quite frequently. Moving something to new business is burdensome to you. I was at a meeting where Mr. McKinley said, that's actually your job. It should not be considered burdensome. That is your due diligence. You made us break up public comment time between comments, basic comments, and agenda because it was too much for it to be mixed for you. I don't understand. These tasks are your job. If you're incapable of doing them, that's another conversation the community needs to have. But I'm tired of you asking the community to jump through hoops for you and then asking us to completely respect you, and at the same time, you completely disrespect another board member on the dais. You disrespect our governor's bill because you can't call it by name. If I call you out of name, I'm removed out of here. You throw propaganda out there on a bill that you're supposed to help implement on this dais. How am I supposed to have faith in you when you can't even call it HB 1557? You'd rather divide the community. You'd rather have propaganda present. You'd rather throw digs. And nobody up here, I know you're a Christian, nobody up here wants to try to give you the benefit of the doubt more, but it is getting really difficult. So I ask you, if this is too hard for you, don't make us change. You change.
My name is Bren Gibbs. Last meeting I spoke that it is sad that some who confess to be Christian on the school board can't even educate themselves on their own religion. Those who do such things are illegitimate educational leaders. Number one, by saying they are Christian but not even educating themselves on clear morals and truths in Scripture. Number two, by following false teachers and leaders who teach a false Christian gospel. And number three, by pushing students of the acceptance and compliance of the LGBTQ lifestyle and violating the freedom of religion. Jesus said in Matthew 18:6, "But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the sea." I urge you to repent before your God, not only for the children, but for yourselves. It has been said a good teacher can make complex things simple, and a bad teacher makes even simple things complex and confusing. Bad teaching is taking a simplicity of two genders backed by science and bringing confusion into students that there is an array of genders that you can choose from. Instead of bringing clarity, you bring confusion and masquerade it under the guise of acceptance, instead of helping these kids learn to love and accept themselves as who they were created to be. But you make simple things complex. You are confused. You're adding to mental health issues. If this is what you're doing in a simple, clear, backed by science truth, and one that your own religion is very clear on, what else are you confused about and getting wrong? At the expense of many young people's lives, families, and this community.
Well, we thank you for those comments. Madam Chair, that concludes the general comments.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.